Hello there, and welcome back to the Silent Science. Tonight, we're taking a slow, soothing dive into one of the most mysterious places on Earth, the deep sea. It's dark, cold, crushingly quiet, and somehow full of life. Life that glows in the dark, survives under mountains of water, and thrives without a single ray of sunlight. It's a world so strange, it almost feels like science fiction, but it's all wonderfully real now. I do hope this video doesn't turn out to be too interesting and accidentally keep you awake, but if it does, well, at least you'll drift off knowing a bit more about how angler fish flirt, how worms eat metal, or why glowing jellyfish might be nature's original nightlights. Before we begin our descent, if you're enjoying these calm science journeys, I'd be so grateful if you gave this video a gentle like and subscribed it. Really helps this little sleepy channel. Take a deep breath. Hold it for just a moment. Now imagine that same breath being crushed by the weight of an entire skyscraper. This isn't science fiction. This is the deep sea. Tonight, we're not diving for fun or adventure. We're sinking slowly, deliberately, into one of Earth's most mysterious realms, where light fades into oblivion. Pressure crushes everything not built to survive it, and life glows in eerie silence. Welcome to the abyss. As you drift downward, the world above becomes a distant memory. The sunlit waves vanish behind you, swallowed by layers of blue, then navy, then black. No stars here, no moonlight, just the endless ink of the ocean's midnight zone. Can you feel the cold pressing in? It's not just the chill of winter air. This is the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, slows your thoughts, numbs everything except wonder, and still. We go deeper, because down here, survival isn't about strength, it's about adaptation. Every meter you descend, the pressure increases exponentially. At 10 meters, it's double what you feel on land. At 100 meters, it's already over 10 times the surface pressure. And at 4,000 meters, 4 kilometers below the surface, the weight of the ocean is more than 400 times what you're used to. Imagine standing under a stack of elephants. Not one, dozens, all balancing on your chest. Yet, life thrives here. Strange, delicate, ancient life. Creatures that have never seen sunlight. Animals that glow like living lanterns. Fish with transparent heads, worms that eat metal, and corals older than human civilization. So how do they do it? How does anything survive under mountains of water, in eternal night, in temperatures near freezing? Let's begin our exploration with the first great challenge of the deep pressure. We'll meet creatures that don't just endure crushing force, they depend on it. But before we dive into their secrets, ask yourself this: where are you watching from? What time is it there? Is it the quiet early hours just past midnight? Or maybe a late night escape from the day's chaos? Perhaps you're tucked into bed, letting these words carry you towards sleep. No matter where you are, welcome. You're not alone in this descent. You're part of a growing community of curious minds drawn to the mysteries of the deep. And tonight, together, we're going deeper than ever before. So let your mind sink, let your thoughts slow. There's no rush here, just the quiet rhythm of the ocean and the strange, silent pulse of life far beneath the waves. The weight of the world, surviving pressure in the deep. Imagine holding a balloon filled with air. Now imagine sinking deeper and deeper into the ocean. What happens? The balloon shrinks, then it pops. Then it implodes. At just 10 meters below the surface, the pressure is already double what we feel on land. At 100 meters, it's over 10 times greater. And at 4,000 meters, 4 kilometers down, the weight of the ocean is more than 400 times what you're used to. It's like standing under a stack of elephants balancing on your chest. And yet, life not only survives here, it thrives. In fact, some creatures can't live anywhere else. They don't just endure crushing force, they depend on it. So how do they do it? Let's take a closer look at one of the most extreme survivors of all, the Hadal snailfish. This small, pale fish lives deeper than any other known vertebrate, recorded as far down as 8,178 meters in the Mariana Trench. Its body is nearly gelatinous, its skin translucent, its bones incredibly thin. There's no swim bladder, that air-filled sac most fish use to control buoyancy, because air doesn't survive at these depths. Instead, the snailfish has evolved a body made for pressure. Soft tissues, flexible structures, and special proteins called piezolites help stabilize its cells and enzymes under immense compression. Without this adaptation, the very chemistry of life would break down. Proteins would cell membranes would harden, enzymes would stop working. But the Hadal snailfish, it simply floats through the abyss, unbothered, and it's not alone. Deep-sea creatures have evolved an entire toolkit of adaptations to cope with pressure, and many of them are unlike anything found in surface-dwelling animals. Flexibility is survival. One of the biggest keys to surviving pressure is flexibility, both literally and figuratively. Many deep-sea animals have soft, gelatinous bodies with few hard parts. Think of creatures like the blobfish, vampire squid, or deep-sea jellyfish. These animals are squishy, and that's exactly what makes them so pressure-resistant. Unlike us, they don't have air pockets in their bodies that would collapse under pressure. They also don't have gas-filled swim bladders like most fish, which would implode or become useless at great depths. Instead, deep-sea fish often manage buoyancy through special oils or compounds in their tissues, substances that remain unaffected by pressure. Their cell membranes contain special fats that stay fluid in the cold and under high pressure, helping maintain critical functions like nutrient transport and energy production. Chemistry under pressure. Under pressure even, the very chemistry of life is challenged by the deep proteins and enzymes. Those microscopic workhorses inside every cell begin to change shape, misfold, or stop working properly. But deep-sea creatures have evolved pressure-resistant enzymes and membranes that keep functioning smoothly even under intense compression. Think of it like this. If you've ever tried opening a tightly sealed plastic container at high altitude or on an airplane, you know how pressure changes can make simple things tricky. Now imagine you're a fish, and your survival depends on millions of such tiny containers working perfectly every second, even under crushing conditions. That's what deep-sea animals have mastered. Some species don't just tolerate pressure, they rely on it. Certain enzymes in these organisms only function properly under high-pressure conditions. If you brought them to the surface, they wouldn't just be uncomfortable. They might not survive at all. That's one reason why studying deep-sea life is so difficult. Many creatures brought to the surface in trawls or submersible captures don't survive the journey. The pressure drop can be as dangerous to them as pressure increase would be to us. The divers among you assume animals temporarily venture into deep waters and return to the surface. Squid and certain species of whales, for instance, these creatures have developed remarkable strategies to deal with rapid pressure changes. Take the sperm whale, for example. It can dive to depths of over 2,000 meters in search of food. More than 6,000 feet down, its ribcage is flexible, its lungs collapse safely, and its blood can store large amounts of oxygen to avoid decompression sickness, commonly known as the bends. Other creatures, like certain species of deep-dwelling amphipods and isopods, have incorporated heavy metals into their exoskeletons. Some even have aluminum-biased armor sourced from the surrounding seawater. That's right, they're mining their own protective gear. Take that, Iron Man. Life beyond Earth. Here's something fascinating. Some deep-sea microbes thrive under pressures up to 1,000 times greater than at sea level. These exophiles literally meaning pressure lovers, live near hydrothermal vents where they endure not only crushing pressure, but also scalding temperatures and high concentrations of heavy metals. They don't just survive, they flourish, and this has huge implications beyond Earth. Scientists believe these microbes may hold clues to how life began on our planet, and possibly even how it might exist elsewhere in the universe, like beneath the icy crust of Jupiter's moon Europa, where liquid oceans may lie hidden beneath miles of frozen ice. Could life exist there? Well, if it can survive under thousands of meters of ocean pressure on Earth, why not? Cold embrace, surviving the freezing depth stake. A deep breath. Now imagine that breath turning into mist before it even leaves your lips. This is not the cold of winter air or mountain snow. This is the cold of the abyss. A cold so absolute, so unrelenting. It seeps into every molecule of water and wraps itself around every living thing like an eternal embrace. Welcome to the freezing depths as we continue our descent. The pressure isn't the only force pressing in. There's also the chill. The average temperature of the deep sea hovers just above freezing, between 2 degrees Celsius and 4 degrees Celsius, or 35 degrees Fahrenheit to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. In some regions, especially the deepest trenches, the water can dip below zero, and yet, life doesn't just survive. Here, it thrives. So how do creatures adapt to this relentless cold? How does anything remain active when most biological processes slow to a crawl? Let's explore the icy frontier of survival. What does cold do to life? At low temperatures, everything slows down. Chemical reactions stall, muscles stiffen, enzymes, those microscopic workhorses inside every cell, begin to freeze in place or stop working altogether. Imagine trying to bake a cake in an oven set to lukewarm. It would take forever, and the results wouldn't be great. That's what life in the deep sea faces, every second of every day. But evolution has found a way. Some species have evolved, called enzymes, proteins with more flexible structures that keep functioning at near-freezing temperatures. They're like the high-performance antifreeze of the biological world. However, this flexibility comes at a cost. Those same enzymes tend to break down easily if the temperature rises too much. That's why many deep-sea species are extremely sensitive to even small increases in temperature. Just a few degrees warmer can spell disaster. Cell membranes, built for ice. Cell membranes are like thin films of oil. They need to stay fluid enough for nutrients to pass through, and for the cell to function, but in cold temperatures, that membrane can stiffen, becoming less permeable and less efficient. To counter this, deep-sea organisms adjust the types of fats in their membranes. They use more unsaturated fats, which stay fluid at lower temperatures, much like how vegetable oil stays liquid in the fridge while butter becomes solid. This lipid remodeling is crucial for survival in the deep. Icy dark. Slow and steady. The deep-sea lifestyle because of the cold. Metabolism in deep-sea animals is incredibly slow. Many deep-sea fish live for decades, some even over a century. They grow slowly, reproduce infrequently, and move with a dreamy elegance. If deep-sea creatures had a motto, it might be, "Why rush?" Their world is one of patience. Meals are rare opportunities. Opportunities are few. So there's no rush. Everything happens in slow motion. Even their blood chemistry is adapted. Some species have hemoglobin in their blood that binds oxygen more tightly than ours does. That means they can carry more oxygen per molecule of blood and hold on to it longer, like having a built-in scuba tank that never quite runs dry. The longest-lived vertebrate on Earth. Let's meet one of the deep sea's most mysterious residents, the Greenland shark. This ghostly creature lives in the cold, deep waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. It grows at a glacial pace, just a few centimeters per year, and it can live for over 400 years. Yes, you read that right. These sharks may have been swimming through icy waters since before the invention of the printing press. They began their lives before Shakespeare was born. Some were already old when the Titanic sank. Imagine that. Swimming through icy waters decade after decade, while entire human civilizations rise and fall above the waves. This extreme longevity is made possible by their slow metabolism, a direct adaptation to the cold, and it makes them the longest-lived vertebrates known to science. Hot pockets in the cold. Not all deep-sea creatures rely solely on cold adaptations. Some cluster around geothermal features, like hydrothermal vents, where water can reach temperatures of over 300 degrees Celsius, 570 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead. Yet, just centimeters away from that boiling vent, the water is near freezing. Deep-sea life has learned to exploit these steep thermal gradients, creating miniature ecosystems where hot meets cold. It's like pitching a tent between a volcano and an iceberg. Some worms and shrimp even live directly on the sides of these vents. Thriving in conditions that would kill nearly any other animal, they've evolved special heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins, allowing them to survive rapid temperature shifts. Talk about resilience, survival without warmth. Unlike mammals, which regulate their body temperature internally, most deep-sea animals are ectothermic, meaning their body temperature is determined by their environment. Rather than fighting the cold, they embrace it. Their enzymes, membranes, and metabolisms are built to operate efficiently at near-freezing temperatures. If you took one of these animals and placed it in a tropical aquarium, it wouldn't thank you. It would probably expire from heat stress. Cold also affects how deep-sea animals reproduce. Many species have long development times for eggs and larvae. In some cases, it can take years for a deep-sea organism to reach maturity. But again, this slow pace fits the rhythm of the deep, with fewer predators, less competition, and fewer disturbances. Deep-sea life doesn't need to rush. That said, the cold doesn't mean safety. In fact, it can be a silent threat. Many deep-sea animals have such narrow thermal tolerance ranges that even slight warming, just 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, can have catastrophic consequences. As climate change begins to alter ocean temperatures and circulation patterns, the deep sea is no longer as isolated as it once was. Warm water is beginning to creep downward, disrupting currents, oxygen levels, and the carefully balanced lives of the creatures below. Extreme microbes, life beyond limits even in the coldest parts of the ocean. Life finds a way. Take deep-sea extremophiles, microbes that thrive under conditions that would destroy most life. Some of these bacteria can survive in water so cold it's practically frozen. They produce antifreeze proteins that prevent ice crystals from forming inside their cells. Others form biofilms, communities of microbes that stick together and share resources. And some even use chemosynthesis, creating energy from chemicals rather than sunlight. This process powers entire ecosystems around hydrothermal vents. It's a completely separate strategy for life, one that doesn't rely on warmth at all, and it has huge implications beyond Earth. If organisms can survive without sunlight or warmth, they might also survive in extreme environments beyond our planet. Places like the icy oceans beneath Europa, Jupiter's moon, or the methane lakes of Titan. Suddenly, those distant worlds seem just a bit more plausible as alien homes. Visual prompt, AI image prompt, a microscopic view of deep-sea extreme appeal. Bacteria living near a hydrothermal vent. The image shows their unique cellular structures, adapted to withstand extreme pressure and heat. The camera pans out to show the towering black smoker chimney in the background, surrounded by shimmering water and strange life forms. Food for thought as you drift further into the icy depths. Ask yourself, if humans could evolve to live in such cold, what would we look like? Could we engineer suits or implants that mimic the adaptations of the Greenland shark? And what might we learn from these creatures that could help us explore the coldest places on Earth, or even distant moons? Because the truth is, the deep sea isn't just a place of mystery. It's a blueprint for survival in the most extreme environments imaginable. And tonight, as you relax and let your thoughts sink into calm, remember this: every breath you take is powered by the same kind of resilience, the same kind of quiet strength, the same kind of adaptation. You may not live under 1,000 atmospheres of pressure or in water colder than a freezer, but somewhere, thousands of meters below the surface, tiny creatures are living their best lives under conditions you can't even imagine, and they're doing just fine. Silence of the deep. Communication in eternal darkness. Welcome to the silence of the deep. Not the silence of peace or stillness, but the silence of complete isolation. Here, where sunlight has long vanished, sound travels differently, and even the faintest whisper can echo for miles. But how do creatures communicate in a world without light? How do they find food, avoid predators, or even find each other in this endless void? Let's begin by understanding the rules of communication in the abyss. Because down here, the usual tools, sight, sound, even smell, don't work the way they do on land. Instead, life has evolved some of the most creative, subtle, and sometimes bizarre ways to send messages across the dark. Sound in the deep. Sound is one of the few things that travel well in water. In fact, it moves faster and farther than it does in air. But in the deep sea, not all animals are equipped to use it. Some fish produce low-frequency pulses by contracting muscles near their swim bladders. These aren't songs or calls, more like underwater hums or clicks. They might signal territory, warn of danger, or call out to potential mates. It's like knocking on a wall to let someone on the other side know you're there. Quiet, simple, but effective. Then there are the louder communicators. Like the snapping shrimp, this tiny crustacean produces a sharp popping noise by snapping its claws shut at incredible speed. The sound creates a bubble that collapses, violently stunning prey and startling predators. But it may also act as a Morse code message to nearby shrimp, a tiny firecracker in the dark. Still, many deep-sea creatures have little use for sound. Their world is too cold, too slow, and too pressure-filled for loud signals. So instead, they've turned to something far more elegant: light, bioluminescence, nature's language. If you could see the deep sea in full darkness, you wouldn't see just black, you'd see stars, living ones. Bioluminescence is the language of the deep. Produced by chemical reactions involving luciferin and luciferase. This eerie glow comes in waves of blue and green colors that travel farthest in water. Some creatures produce it themselves. Others host glowing bacteria in special organs. Either way, the result is the same: a silent conversation written in light. Take the lanternfish. Tiny, delicate, and incredibly common. These fish have rows of glowing organs along their bodies. Each species has a unique pattern, like a glowing barcode. By flashing these patterns in specific sequences, they recognize each other, maintain schools, and even flirt. Imagine wearing a name tag that only your friends can read, and it floats with you through an endless silent void. Other creatures use bioluminescence in even more inventive ways. Squid pulse their whole bodies with light, like a deep-sea dance party. Jellyfish flash brief, bursts of color to signal warnings or readiness to mate, and the anglerfish dangles a glowing lure in front of its mouth, drawing curious prey directly into its trap. It's not just about hunting or hiding, it's about speaking without sound. Chemical signals, smell in the dark wind, even light becomes rare. Another sense takes over. Smell. Or more accurately, chemical signaling. Many deep-sea animals release pheromones into the water to signal their presence. These invisible trails can drift for miles, guiding mates toward each other in the vast dark. Imagine being able to follow a trail of perfume blindfolded for several kilometers, knowing who left it, what they want, and whether you're interested. That's the level of nuance deep-sea creatures often work with. Some species of deep-sea shrimp or lanternfish even use chemical signals to move as a unit, avoiding predators or converging on food sources. No shouting, no visual cues, just silent whispers drifting through the water. Electric fields, silent conversations, even electricity gets in on the act. Some deep-sea fish, like certain types of knifefish and electric eels, generate weak electric fields around. Their bodies. These fields help them navigate, detect objects, and even communicate. Variations in frequency or strength can signal everything from "I'm here" to "back off," or "let's find dinner together." It's a kind of Morse code written in voltage. Body language, touch, and posture. What good is a gesture in total darkness? Actually, quite a bit. Some animals use posture and touch to communicate. Squid and octopuses can change not just color but texture and pattern, creating tactile cues as much as visual ones. Crustaceans wave their antennae, flick their claws, or adopt threatening poses. These gestures are often paired with touch or chemical signals, creating a kind of multisensory package. Here I am. This is what I want. Please don't eat me. Mating messages, a rare encounter. Perhaps that the most important form of communication in the deep sea is mating. Finding a partner is rare, so when it happens, it must count. Some species have evolved heightened sensitivity to signals. Others follow chemical trails for days. And then there's the anglerfish. Its male is tiny, barely a fraction of the female's size. When he finds her, he bites on and fuses permanently. He becomes a permanent appendage, existing only to supply sperm when needed. It's romantic, in a very deep-sea kind of way. Food for thought as you continue your descent. Ask yourself, if humans lived in such darkness, would we develop our own forms of silent communication? Could we engineer suits or implants that mimic the bioluminescent abilities of deep-sea creatures? And what might we learn from these silent conversations that could help us explore other worlds? Because the truth is, the deep sea isn't just a place of mystery. It's a blueprint for survival in the most extreme environments imaginable. And tonight, as you relax and let your thoughts sink into calm, remember this. Every breath you take is powered by the same kind of resilience, the same kind of quiet strength, the same kind of adaptation. You may not live under 1,000 atmospheres of pressure, or in water colder than a freezer, but somewhere thousands of meters below the surface. Tiny creatures are living their best lives under conditions you can't even imagine, and they're doing just fine. Forests of the abyss, the hidden coral reefs of the deep. As you drift deeper into the abyss, imagine what it would be like to walk through a forest that has stood for thousands of years, a forest where sunlight never reaches, where the trees don't grow toward the sky, but instead stretch silently across the seafloor. Welcome to the forests of the abyss, the hidden coral reefs of the deep. Unlike their tropical cousins, these corals don't rely on sunlight or warm waters. They thrive in eternal darkness, under crushing pressure, in near-freezing temperatures, and yet they bloomed out slowly, patiently, for centuries, even millennia. These deep-sea coral reefs are some of the oldest living ecosystems on Earth. Older than human civilization itself, some have been growing for over 4,000 years, quietly filtering nutrients. From the cold, dark water as pyramids were built, empires rose and fell, and entire species came and went. But unlike the vibrant reefs of shallow seas, these underwater cathedrals remain largely unseen by human eyes, until now. Let's explore this hidden world. What are deep-sea corals? Deep-sea corals are distant relatives of the colorful reefs. We know from snorkeling trips and documentaries, but they live in a completely different realm, found at depths ranging from 200 meters all the way down to over 1,000 meters. These corals form massive, intricate structures that can stretch for miles. They come in many forms, branching, fan-like, cup-shaped, and even stony varieties that build towering reefs. One of the most famous is Laphilia, a white coral that builds sprawling reefs in deep, cold currents. Another is Primnoa pacifica, known as the red tree coral, which grows twisted, gnarled branches like underwater bonsai trees. But perhaps the most awe-inspiring are the deep-sea black corals, so named not because they're dark in color, but because their skeletons are made of black or dark brown proteinaceous material. Some of these corals have been dated to more than 4,000 years old. Imagine touching something that began growing before written language existed, before the wheel was invented, before the first city was built. That's how ancient these reefs truly are. Life in the deep forest, despite the darkness and cold, these coral reefs are teeming with life. They act as oases in the deep, offering shelter, breeding grounds, and feeding areas for countless species. Fish weave through coral branches like birds. Through trees, crabs and shrimp scuttle along the reef surface. Octopuses hide in crevices, watching for prey. Sponges and sea fans filter tiny particles from the water, and bioluminescent creatures add flickers of light to the eternal night. The biodiversity found around deep-sea reefs rivals that of shallow water coral systems. Yet, unlike tropical reefs, these deep ones don't host symbiotic algae. Instead, they rely entirely on food drifting down from above: marine snow, plankton, and organic matter carried by deep ocean currents. This slow but steady supply sustains entire communities. Some species depend exclusively on deep-sea coral habitats, and without them, they wouldn't survive. A slow and steady growth. Because of the extreme conditions, deep-sea corals grow incredibly slowly. Some species grow just 1 centimeter every few decades. Entire colonies may take hundreds or even thousands of years to reach full size. This makes them exceptionally vulnerable. Once damaged, recovery is nearly impossible within human timescales. Fishing trawlers dragging heavy nets across the seafloor can destroy centuries of coral growth in minutes. Deep-sea mining operations threaten to flatten entire reef systems before we even know they exist. Climate change, too, poses a risk. Ocean acidification, caused by increased carbon dioxide absorption, weakens coral skeletons and hampers new growth. In a place where time moves differently, destruction happens in the blink of an eye. How do we study these hidden reefs? Exploring deep-sea coral reefs is no easy task. They lie far beyond the reach of divers. We must rely on advanced technology to study them remotely. Operated vehicles, ROVs, equipped with high-definition cameras and robotic arms, allow scientists to observe and sample these fragile ecosystems without disturbing them. Autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, map the seafloor in stunning detail, revealing vast reef systems previously unknown. Sonar scans help researchers locate coral structures from afar, and pressurized collection chambers allow us to bring deep-sea corals to the surface for study, keeping them alive during transport. By simulating their native pressure conditions, each expedition brings new discoveries, new species, new behaviors, new clues about how life survives in one of Earth's most extreme environments. Scientific wonders beneath the waves beyond their ecological importance. Deep-sea corals offer valuable insights into Earth's history. Their skeletal structures contain layers of chemical signatures, records of past ocean temperatures, nutrient levels, and even atmospheric changes. By studying these layers, scientists can reconstruct climate patterns. Going back thousands of years, it's like reading the rings of a tree, except the tree is underwater, ancient, and holds secrets about our planet's past. Additionally, some deep-sea corals produce unique compounds with potential medical applications. Researchers have identified chemicals with anti-inflammatory, antibiotic, and even anti-cancer properties. Who knows what other cures might be hiding in these quiet depths? Threats to the deep forests, unfortunately. These ancient reefs face growing threats. Bottom trawling, a fishing method that drags heavy nets across the seafloor, is one of the biggest dangers. It flattens coral gardens, destroys habitat, and disrupts ecosystems that took centuries to form. Deep-sea mining is another looming threat. As demand for rare metals increases, companies are turning to the ocean floor for resources. Hydrothermal vent fields, deep-sea ridges, and coral-rich regions are all being eyed for extraction. The sediment plumes created by mining equipment could smother nearby reefs. Noise pollution from industrial activity could disturb sensitive species, and once lost, these reefs may never return. Why should we care? You might wonder, why should we care about reefs we'll never see? Why protect places that seem so far removed from our daily lives? The answer lies in understanding how deeply connected everything is. Deep-sea coral reefs support fisheries that feed millions, store carbon, helping regulate Earth's climate, serve as indicators of ocean health, hold untapped scientific and medical potential. They are part of the great web of life, and when one thread breaks, the whole system feels it. Moreover, these reefs remind us of something profound, that life doesn't only thrive in the sunlit shell WS. It persists in the coldest, darkest corners of our planet. It adapts, endures, and flourishes, even in silence. Symbiosis and survival. Strange relationships in the deep. Welcome back. We've descended far beyond sunlight, beyond familiar rhythms, and now we enter a world where survival isn't always about strength or speed, but about relationships. Strange, often bizarre relationships in the deep sea, where food is scarce, pressure is crushing, and darkness reigns. Life has learned that sometimes the best way to survive is not alone, but together. From parasitic males to symbiotic partnerships, the deep sea is full of surprising alliances. Some are beautiful, some are grotesque, all are fascinating. Let's explore the strange bonds that shape life in the abyss. Parasitic males, when love means losing yourself. Let's begin with one of the most extreme examples of deep-sea bonding, the anglerfish. If you've ever seen an anglerfish, you know the female is the star. She has a glowing lure dangled from her head like a fishing rod, a tool used to attract prey in the dark. But what about the males? They're tiny, sometimes only a fraction of the female's size, blind, without a lure, and without much of anything else. So what do? They search, and when they find a female, they bite on and never let go. Literally, the male anglerfish fuses permanently to the female's body. His eyes and fins atrophy, his organs dissolve. He becomes a permanent appendage, existing solely to provide sperm when needed. It's not exactly romantic, but in the deep sea, where mates are rare and encounters even rarer, it's efficient, a guaranteed reproductive partner in a world where finding love is harder than surviving pressure. This kind of sexual parasitism is found in many species of deep-sea anglerfish, and while it may seem shocking by human standards, it's a perfect example of evolution shaping life. Around scarcity, there's no room for extra bodies, no time for courtship, just survival and reproduction at all costs. Living together, mutualism in the dark. Not all relationships in the deep sea are parasitic. Some are mutualistic, meaning both parties benefit. Take the lanternfish, for instance. These small, delicate fish glow with rows of bioluminescent organs along their bodies. Each species has a unique pattern, like a glowing barcode. By flashing these patterns in specific sequences, they recognize each other, maintain schools, and even flirt. It's a silent conversation written in light. Or consider the giant tubeworm Riftia pachyptilla, found near hydrothermal vents. These creatures can grow over 2 meters long, yet they have no mouth, no stomach, and no digestive system. Instead, they rely entirely on chemosynthetic bacteria living inside them. These microbes convert toxic hydrogen sulfide from the vent water into usable energy, feeding the worm in return for shelter. It's a perfect partnership. One gives home, the other gives food together. They thrive in one of Earth's most hostile environments. Microbial partnerships, invisible as deep-sea animals, don't just partner with each other, they also form alliances with microscopic life. Many deep-sea organisms host bioluminescent bacteria in specialized organs. These bacteria produce light, helping the host animal camouflage, communicate, or hunt. The flashlight fish, for example, has glowing bacterial patches beneath its eyes that it can turn on and off. It uses this light to navigate, signal, and even confuse predators. Similarly, some squid and shrimp carry glowing bacteria in their light organs. They use these microbial partners to create dazzling displays, signaling mates, startling enemies, or luring prey. It's like outsourcing your lighting system to tiny, glowing freelancers, and it works beautifully. Scavenger societies, sharing the spoils in the deep sea. Food is rare, but when it does fall from above, like a dead whale or a sunken ship, it becomes a feast, and everyone shows up. Enter the scavengers, massive hagfish. Swarms of amphipods and packs of deep-sea crabs descend upon the carcass in waves. They tear flesh, strip bones, and fight for scraps. But even here, cooperation plays a role. Some scavengers work together, using coordinated movements to break down tough material. Others follow chemical trails laid by earlier arrivals, and some even wait patiently, arriving only after the initial frenzy has passed, avoiding conflict and still getting a meal. Even in competition, there is strategy. Even in chaos, there is order. Brooding mothers, the longest. Pregnancy in the sea lets meet a mother who waits and waits and waits. The deep-sea octopus, Granellodon boreopacifica, holds the record for the longest known brooding period in the animal kingdom. After laying her eggs on a rocky outcrop, she guards them continuously for over 4 years. No breaks, no meals, no movement. Just constant vigilance. During this time, she fans the eggs with her arms, keeps them clean, and protects them from predators. She doesn't eat, she slowly weakens, and once the eggs hatch, she dies. It's a sacrifice few animals would make, but in the deep sea, where young face incredible odds, this level of devotion ensures the next generation gets a fighting chance. Worms that eat metal, nature's recyclers. Now let us visit a place where nature recycles in the most unexpected way. On the seafloor, sunken ships and old anchors become homes for colonies of metal-eating worms, known as lamanitabes. These worms live near hydrothermal vents and feed on iron and manganese oxides. They extract minerals from the metal. Essentially eating rust, their bodies build iron-rich tubes around them, structures that look like underwater STA lectures. It's a remarkable example of life adapting to what's available, even if that means turning metal into home, and in doing so, these worms help break down man-made debris, recycling it back into the ecosystem. Lessons in cooperation as we continue our descent. Ask yourself, what would humans look like if we evolved in the deep? Could we engineer suits or implants that mimic the symbiotic relationships of deep-sea creatures? And what might we learn from these silent alliances that could help us protect fragile ecosystems? Because the truth is, the deep sea isn't just a place of mystery. It's a blueprint for survival in the most extreme environments imaginable. And tonight, as you relax and let your thoughts sink into calm, remember this: every breath you take is powered by the same kind of resilience, the same kind of quiet, strength, the same kind of adaptation. You may not live under 1,000 atmospheres of pressure or in water colder than a freezer, but somewhere, thousands of meters below the surface, tiny creatures are living their best lives under conditions you can't even imagine, and they're doing just fine. The deep sea food chain, surviving on a starving diet. Welcome back. We've descended into a world where light doesn't reach, pressure crushes everything not built for it, and cold wraps every creature like an ancient embrace. But now we enter a realm even more alien than the one before. A place where food is so scarce, so unpredictable, that survival becomes a game of patience, adaptation, and sometimes extreme ingenuity. This is the deep sea food chain, a system built on whispers of nutrition, falling like dust from above, a world where meals are rare, competition is quiet, and energy conservation is the name of the game. Let's explore how life thrives, or barely survives, on a diet of shadows and silence. Marine snow, the deep sea's only buffer. Imagine sitting down to dinner, and your plate contains only crumbs. No main course, no side dish, just tiny fragments, invisible to the naked eye, drifting slowly toward you. That's the reality for most deep-sea creatures, their food source. Marine snow, not actual snow, but the endless fall of organic debris from the upper ocean. Bits of dead plankton, fragments of algae, discarded mucus, feathers of decay. Each flake is microscopic. Together they form a slow, steady rain of nourishment, the foundation of the entire deep-sea food web. It's as if the surface ocean is constantly shedding, and those flakes become the bread and butter of abyssal life. Over time, these particles accumulate on the seafloor, creating nutrient layers that support surprising biodiversity. Worms, brittle stars, sea cucumbers, and other scavengers crawl across the sediment, sweeping up particles with feathery tentacles, sticky arms, or even mucus nets. They're the quiet custodians of the deep, cleaning up what the surface world leaves behind. But marine snow isn't just leftovers. It's the backbone of life in the abyss. Tiny, filter feeders consume the snow, small predators eat them, and so on up the chain. It's a slow and quiet kind of life, but incredibly efficient. Nothing is wasted. Whale falls, nature's banquet, in the dark sometimes, though something much bigger falls from above. Enter the whale fall. When a whale dies near the surface, and its body eventually sinks, it becomes an enormous nutrient-rich bonanza. The deep, a single whale can provide food for an entire ecosystem for decades. The process unfolds in 3 distinct phases: mobile scavenger phase, Large scavengers like sharks, hagfish, and giant amphipods arrive first. They strip the carcass down to bones in a matter of months. Enrichment opportunist phase. Smaller animals like worms and crustaceans burrow into the sediment around the bones, feeding on the oily remains and bacteria that bloom from the decay. Phase. Specialized bacteria begin to break down the lipids within the bones, releasing hydrogen sulfide, a chemical that supports a whole new kind of ecosystem. Clams and other chemosynthetic organisms arrive to feed not on the whale itself, but on the chemical energy it now provides. It's a cycle of decay turned into life, a last act of generosity from the whale long after its final breath. Whale falls are rare. Not every creature can count on such a feast. Most must rely on far more modest meals and on extremely efficient metabolisms. Slow digestion. The art of waiting. Many deep-sea animals have incredibly slow digestion. A meal that would last a surface-dwelling animal a day might last a deep-sea creature a week, or even a month. Some animals can go for months without eating at all. This is partly due to their slow metabolisms, but also to their lifestyle. Most deep-sea creatures don't move much. They conserve energy by staying still, letting the food come to them. Ambush predators are common. These are animals that sit motionless for hours, even days, waiting for something edible to wander into striking range. The tripod fish, for instance, plants itself on the seafloor and uses its long fins to detect vibrations in the water. When a tasty morsel comes by, snap! It strikes with surprising speed for such a lazy-looking fish. Other ambush predators include deep-sea jellyfish, which drift with tentacles outstretched like floating nets, and the infamous anglerfish, which uses its bioluminescent lure to attract prey directly into its mouth. It's like going fishing, but you are the fishing rod, the bait, and the hook all in one. Scavenging, making do with what you find. Scavenging is another key survival strategy. Some animals actively patrol the seafloor, sniffing out any edible material they can find. Others, like certain species of amphipods and isopods, are more opportunistic, clinging to larger animals and feeding on whatever scraps they encounter. It's not glamorous work, but in the deep sea, beggars can't be choosers. One of the strangest feeding adaptations in the deep sea comes from bone-eating worms, known as azidax, often nicknamed zombie worms. These worms lack mouths, stomachs, or intestines. Instead, they grow root-like structures that penetrate bones, usually from whale falls, and absorb nutrients through symbiotic bacteria living in their tissues. It's less like eating and more like ghostly parasitic gardening. Some animals eat each other. Of course, carnivory is alive and well in the deep, even if it tends to happen in slow motion. Giant squid prey on fish, and smaller squid, dragonfish, use needle-sharp teeth to seize prey in the dark. Even relatively peaceful-looking creatures, like octopuses, have been known to hunt when the opportunity presents itself. Down here, survival often means seizing the moment, quietly, efficiently, and without warning. Detridivores, the deep-sea cleanup crew then. There are the detridivores, animals that specialize in eating organic matter already broken down by others. These include a wide array of worms, sea cucumbers, and tiny crustaceans. Many of these creatures have elaborate feeding structures like fans, tentacles, or mouthparts adapted to sweeping the seafloor for invisible crumbs. Picture a Roomba with tentacles, and you're not far off. Some detritivores even use mucus nets to collect falling marine snow. They stretch thin sheets of sticky goo between their appendages, catching organic particles, like a spider catching flies. It's a surprisingly effective strategy in a world where food is rare and scattered. Chemosynthesis, life without light. Asterisk, But some of the most remarkable deep-sea ecosystems thrive not on marine snow or whale falls, but on chemicals. In places like hydrothermal vents, entire communities exist without sunlight. Instead of photosynthesis, they rely on chemosynthesis, a process by which microbes use chemicals like hydrogen sulfide or methane to produce energy. These bacteria form the base of the food chain. They're eaten by filter feeders, which are in turn hunted by predators. It's a completely separate strategy for life, one that doesn't rely on sunlight at all. And it has huge implications, not just for biology, but for our understanding of life beyond Earth. If organisms can survive without oxygen or light, they might also survive in extreme environments on icy moons like Europa. Suddenly, those distant worlds seem a bit more plausible as alien homes. Symbiosis, sharing the burdensome animals, rely on symbiosis, partnering with bacteria or other organisms to share the burdens of digestion and survival. Take the giant tubeworm, Riftia pachaputala, found near hydrothermal vents. This creature has no mouth, no stomach, no digestive system. Instead, it relies entirely on chemosynthetic bacteria. Living inside a special organ called the trophosome, the bacteria process the vent chemicals, and in return, feed the worm. It's a perfect example of mutualism. Two organisms working together to survive in a place that would otherwise be utterly lifeless. Other animals, like giant clams and mussels living near the vents, harbor chemosynthetic bacteria within their gill tissues. They've become specialists in life on the edge, thriving in extreme heat, toxic chemicals, and pitch darkness, all thanks to bacterial partners. Carnivorous wonders, hunting in the dark despite the scarcity of food. Many deep-sea creatures are skilled hunters. The vampire squid, despite its slightly misleading name, has evolved one of the most advanced bioluminescent defense systems. Known, when threatened, it turns itself inside out, cloaking its vulnerable body in a protective webbing while spraying a cloud of bioluminescent mucus into the water. Imagine a ninja throwing a glitter bomb and then vanishing into the night. That's the vampire squid's signature move. The dragonfish, meanwhile, uses needle-sharp teeth and red bioluminescence, a rarity in the deep. Most deep-sea animals can't see red light, making it the perfect stealth weapon. The dragonfish uses this invisible spotlight to silently illuminate its prey, without giving away its own position. It's the equivalent of having night vision goggles in a pitch-black room. And then there's the colossal squid, elusive, mysterious, and possibly the largest invertebrate on Earth. Its eyes are the size of dinner plates, its tentacles lined with hooks. It hunts in silence, relying on ambush, stealth, and strength. There are even reports of colossal squids fighting sperm whales in epic underwater battles. Battles that may end with both predator and prey sinking to the seafloor, a duel to the death, played out in total darkness. Brooding mothers, patience beyond measure, meet a mother who waits and waits and waits. The deep-sea octopus, Granelodon boreopacifica, holds the record for the longest known brooding period in the animal kingdom. After laying her eggs on a rocky outcrop, she guards them continuously for over 4 years. No breaks, no meals, no movement, just constant vigilance during this time. She fans the eggs with her arms, keeps them clean, and protects them from predators. She doesn't eat, she slowly weakens, and once the eggs hatch, she dies. It's a sacrifice few animals would make, but in the deep sea, where young face incredible odds, this level of devotion ensures the next generation gets a fighting chance. Bonitors and glowing mucus, strange adaptations, now let us visit a place where nature recycles in the most unexpected way. On the seafloor, sunken ships and old anchors become homes for colonies of metal-eating worms. known as Lamana cristatilla. These worms live near hydrothermal vents and feed on iron and manganese oxides. They extract minerals from the metal. Essentially eating rust, their bodies build iron-rich tubes around them, structures that look like underwater staplers. It's a remarkable example of life adapting to what's available, even if that means turning metal into home. And then there are the bioluminescent mucus sprayers. The vampire squid again proves its adaptability. When threatened, it doesn't flee, it doesn't fight. Instead, it releases a glowing cloud of mucus into the water, a dazzling distraction that allows it to escape. It's not the most polite getaway, but it works. The deep sea's silent legacy, a world worth protecting. We've come to the end of our journey, that from the crushing weight of pressure that shapes life at the bottom of the sea, to the icy silence that wraps everything in eternal cold, from the glowing whispers of bioluminescence to the slow, ancient rhythms of deep time. We've explored a world few will ever see, yet one that touches us all. The deep sea is not just a place, it is a presence, a quiet, enduring force that regulates our planet, stores its history, and holds secrets we are only beginning to understand. But as we rise back toward the surface, let's take one last look at what lies below, because this hidden realm, so far removed from our daily lives, is more connected to us than we might realize, and it needs our attention, not just our fascination, not just our wonder, but our care. The deep sea, a planet within a planet. The deep sea is the largest living space on Earth. It covers over 60% of our planet's surface. It holds more than 95% of all the water on Earth, and yet, more than 80% of it remains unexplored. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the bottom of our own ocean. That should humble us. It should also inspire us, because every time we send a submersible down, or a remotely operated vehicle, into the abyss, we find something new species, new behaviors, new mysteries, even new ways of surviving under conditions we once thought impossible. Life here doesn't just endure, it innovates, it adapts, it thrives in ways that challenge everything we thought we knew about biology, evolution, and even the potential for life beyond Earth. Life beyond Earth, lessons from the deep. Some of the most extreme environments on Earth are found not in deserts or mountaintops, but in the deep sea. Hydrothermal vents spewing superheat water at temperatures above 350 degrees Celsius. Trenches deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Oxygen-starved zones where creatures survive on chemical energy alone. These places have become testbeds for astrobiology, the study of life beyond Earth. Why? Because if life can survive in these alien conditions on our own planet, then perhaps it can exist elsewhere. Perhaps beneath the icy crust of Europa, Jupiter's moon, where an ocean may lie hidden under layers of frozen ice, or within the methane lakes of Titan, Saturn's largest moon, where strange chemistry could support unknown forms of life. The deep sea teaches us that life does not require sunlight. It does not need warmth. It does not even require oxygen. All it needs is a chance, and that chance exists not just in the depths of our oceans, but possibly across the universe. The deep sea and human history. You might be surprised to learn how deeply the deep sea is tied to human history. Shipwrecks rest silently on the ocean floor, silent tombs of explorers, traders, and warriors from centuries past. Entire civilizations lost to rising seas now lie beneath waves, waiting to be rediscovered. Deep-sea sediments act like a time capsule, preserving microscopic fossils that tell us about Earth's climate over millions of years. They reveal mass extinctions, ancient forests, shifting continents, even asteroid impacts. The deep sea is not just a frontier of science, It is a vault of memory, a library written in sediment, stone, and shell, and it is disappearing faster than we can read it. Threats from above for all its depth and mystery. The deep sea is not immune to the actions of humans. In fact, we are already changing it, often without realizing it. Let's talk about some of the greatest threats. Plastic pollution. Plastic bags, microplastics, fishing lines, and ghost nets drift downward, settling on the seafloor like a foreign snowfall. Scientists have found plastic in the stomachs of deep-sea fish, microplastics embedded in amphipods living in the Mariana Trench. Even in the deepest, darkest corners of the ocean, we've left our mark. Deep-sea mining. As demand for rare metals increases, companies are turning to the ocean floor. Hydrothermal vent fields, coral-rich regions, and abyssal plains rich in mineral nodules are all being eyed for extraction. The sediment plumes created by mining equipment could smother nearby reefs. Noise pollution disrupts sensitive species and entire ecosystems. Many, still unnamed, may be destroyed before we even know they exist. Overfishing and ghost fishing. Deep-sea fisheries target long-lived species, like orange, ruffy, and grenadiers, animals that can live for decades or even centuries. But when you remove them too quickly, their populations collapse, and because they reproduce so slowly, recovery is nearly impossible. Meanwhile, discarded fishing gear known as ghost nets continue to trap and kill marine life long after they've been abandoned. Climate change. Warming waters are creeping downward. Oxygen levels are dropping in some regions. Ocean acidification is dissolving the delicate skeletons of deep-sea corals, and changes in surface productivity are reducing the amount of food that reaches the deep. Everything we do on land eventually finds its way into the ocean. Even the deepest parts are not safe. Why should we care, you might ask? Why protect a place we'll never visit? Why fight for a world we barely understand? Because the deep sea is not separate from us. It is part of the same fragile system that sustains life on Earth. It helps regulate the global climate. It cycles nutrients that support fisheries and marine biodiversity. It stores carbon, helping to stabilize the atmosphere. And it is home to untold species, many of which may hold keys to future medicine, technology, or even space exploration. More importantly, the deep sea reminds us of something profound: that life does not always depend on light, that survival is not always fast or loud, that resilience can be slow, silent, and subtle, and that beauty can exist in the darkest places. What can we do? There are no easy answers, but there are steps we can take. Support marine protected areas. These are ocean zones where industrial activity is restricted or banned. They give ecosystems a chance to recover and thrive. Advocate for sustainable practices. Support sustainable seafood choices. Reduce plastic use, and speak out against destructive fishing methods. Fund scientific exploration we cannot protect, what we do not understand. Supporting deep-sea research helps us uncover the ocean's secrets and safeguard them. Raise awareness. Share what you've learned. Talk about the deep sea. Show others that it's not empty or lifeless. It's full of wonder. Every action, no matter how small, ripples outward, just like the marine snow drifting silently through the dark. Final thoughts. A world that remembers as we begin to ascend. Imagine this. You are rising through the water column. Pressure eases. Cold begins to fade. Light returns, and soon you break the surface. Back in the world of wind, sun, and sky. But something has changed. You carry with you the memory of a place most will never see, a place of crushing pressure, of eternal night, of glowing creatures and silent forests older than human civilization. This is the deep sea. A world that remembers. It remembers the fall of whales, the rise and fall of empires, the birth of mountains, the shifting of continents, and someday it will remember us. What will it say? Will it remember us as careless visitors, or as careful stewards who chose to protect the unknown? That choice is ours to make. A final word before sleep. Take a deep breath. Hold it gently. Now imagine doing that at the bottom of the ocean, under 4 kilometers of water. Impossible for us, but for the deep sea creatures we've met tonight, it's home. So as you drift off to sleep, picture this: a Greenland shark swimming through icy currents, silent and ancient. A sea cucumber crawling across the seafloor, cleaning up what the surface leaves behind. A jellyfish pulsing with light in the blackness, and somewhere far below, a Hadal snailfish floats effortlessly in the crushing dark, perfectly adapted, perfectly at peace. The deep sea is not empty. It is not lifeless. It is not beyond reach. It is a reminder that life finds a way, even in the coldest, darkest corners of the earth, and maybe, just maybe, beyond it. To good night, sweet dreams, and thank you for diving into the deep with me. End credits music fades and soft, ambient underwater sounds continue if you enjoyed this gentle dive into the deep. I'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from? What time is it where you are? And what was your favorite deep-sea creature tonight? Leave a comment below. I read every one. If this helped you relax or sparked a bit of curiosity, feel free to like the video and subscribe for more calming science stories to fall asleep to. Wishing you a peaceful night beneath the waves. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and dream of glowing fish.